hook. He nearly stood up to leave, until he saw her eyes, and everything he thought he knew about love changed. Elias Hartman checked his watch for the 10th time in 5 minutes. The cafe was warm, lit with amber lamps that cast soft shadows across wooden tables. Outside, rain hammered the windows, blurring the world into streaks of silver. A perfect evening for a blind date, or at least it was supposed to be. But his date was 40 minutes late. He wasn't used to waiting. Not as the 32-year-old millionaire architect whose schedule was planned to the minute. Not as the man the city magazines called the reluctant prince of real estate. Elias had agreed to this blind date only because his sister, Ava, had worn him down. "She's perfect," Ava had insisted. "You say that about every woman you want me to meet," he countered. "No, Elias, this one is different." Different how, she never said. And now he was doubting everything. He sighed, gathered his coat, and pushed his chair back, ready to walk out. That's when the door burst open. A gust of cold wind rushed in, carrying with it the scent of wet earth. Elias turned toward the entrance and froze. A woman stood there, completely covered in mud. Her hair clung to her face. Her jeans were soaked. Her shoes squished with every hesitant step. Tiny leaves were tangled in her sweater, and her hands trembled as she brushed a streak of mud from her cheek. The entire cafe turned to stare. She looked around, embarrassed, eyes darting from table to table, until they landed on him. Her expression changed instantly. Shock, relief, then dread. She lifted a small, hopeless wave. Elias blinked. This was his blind date? She walked toward him, cheeks flushing crimson. I'm so sorry, she whispered, stopping a foot away. "I promise I'm not always like this." He raised an eyebrow, still half standing, unsure what to do. His instinct told him to leave. To escape the embarrassment, the discomfort, the chaos she brought with her like a storm. But then she lifted her face fully, and he saw her eyes. Warm, honest, embarrassed but brave. The kind of eyes that carried stories, pain, and a softness he didn't know he missed. Something inside him hesitated. "I'm Leora," she said quietly. "Your blind date. The one who ruined your evening." There was a hint of humor in her voice, self-deprecating, apologetic, and heartbreakingly sincere. He sat down slowly. "What happened?" Leora exhaled shakily, sinking into the chair opposite him. "My bus broke down 2 miles back. Then a car splashed mud across the sidewalk. Then I tried to take a shortcut across a small field, and..." She lifted her muddy arms. "The field one." A laugh almost slipped from Elias's lips. "Almost." She continued. "I know I look ridiculous. You can leave if you want. Honestly, I'll understand." Everyone was still staring at her, and Elias felt something strange bloom in his chest. Annoyance. Not at her, but at the onlookers. At the judgment. At the whispering. He cleared his throat and reached for the extra napkins on the table, sliding them toward her. "Here. At least, clean your face." Leora smiled gratefully, wiping mud from her cheeks. "Thank you. Really. And I'm sorry I made you wait." "For what it's worth," Elias said softly. "I was about to leave." Her movements paused. "Oh," she whispered. "Then maybe I saved myself the embarrassment of being dumped before even arriving." Her honesty hit him stronger than he expected. "No," he said. "Actually, I'm glad you came." She looked up, surprised. "Really? Even like this?" He studied her for a long moment. Most women he dated were polished, perfect, rehearsed, more interested in his money than his heart. They never arrived in mud, or breathless, or vulnerable. Leora was none of those things, and somehow it made her real. He leaned back. "Tell me the rest of the story." She blushed and tucked muddy hair behind her ear. "Fine. But you're not allowed to laugh." "I'll try." "I was visiting a little boy I volunteer with," she began. "He's 5. Has a heart condition. He wanted a new picture book, but his mom couldn't afford it yet. So, I brought him one." Her voice softened. "He hugged me for 10 whole seconds. The kind of hug you feel all the way to your soul." Elias felt something shift. Compassion? Admiration? And then, she said dramatically, I stepped outside, tripped on absolutely nothing, rolled down the tiniest hill in existence, and turned into a walking mud monster. Elias finally laughed. A warm, genuine laugh that surprised them both. Leora grinned. See? You laughed. Told you the story was ridiculous. He shook his head. It's ridiculous, but it's also incredibly sweet. Sweet. She pointed at her muddy sweater. This? Sweet. You helped a child before coming here. Her expression fell slightly. That's nothing. Anyone would. No, Elias said quietly. Not anyone. For a moment, the cafe noise faded. Only the sound of soft rain tapping the windows existed. Then Leora's voice softened. Why did you really agree to this date? He hesitated. Because his sister insisted? Because he was lonely but refused to admit it? Because he hadn't felt anything real in years? He exhaled. Because I wanted to meet someone genuine. Leora's smile faltered, touched by something deep. Well, you met someone muddy. That's halfway there, right? He chuckled. Maybe more than halfway. The waiter approached with awkward politeness. Do you need towels? A mop? A hose? Leora hid her face in her hands. Elias shot the waiter a stern look. Just water. And a hot chocolate. For me? Leora asked, surprised. You look like you need it. Rain roared louder outside as the waiter left. I know I ruined this date, Leora whispered again. But thank you for not walking away. He looked at her sincerely. Leora, I didn't stay out of pity. I stayed because I want to know you. Her breath caught. For a moment, she forgot the mud, the embarrassment, the stares. All she saw was a man who looked at her like she wasn't a disaster, but a person worth staying for. And for the first time that night, she felt warm. Little did she know, Elias had already begun seeing something in her he had never seen in anyone before. Something that would change both their lives forever. He thought the mud was the surprise, until she told him the truth she'd hidden behind her smile. Leora wrapped her hands around the warm cup of hot chocolate, letting the steam melt the cold from her fingers. Elias watched her quietly, noticing how she tried to hide the small tremor in her hands. She looked calmer now, but something in her eyes, something heavy, didn't match her playful smile. You keep apologizing, Elias said gently. But I don't mind the mess. It's not the mess I'm apologizing for, she whispered. Her words were so soft he almost missed them. The cafe lights glowed golden around them, but Leora kept her gaze low, tracing the rim of her mug. Elias leaned forward, sensing the shift. What do you mean? Leora hesitated, her breath shaky. You're Elias Hartman. Everyone knows who you are. You build half the city skyline. You could date models, actresses, anyone you want. She swallowed. And I'm nobody. Elias sat up straighter, the words hitting him in a way he didn't expect. You're not nobody. You don't understand, she murmured. I barely make rent. I take 2 buses to work. I volunteer because I can't afford to help in any other way. And tonight, this stupid mud, this wasn't supposed to be me. Not the version I wanted you to see. She looked up finally, and her eyes shimmered, not from tears, but from humiliation, exhaustion, and years of carrying too much alone. Elias inhaled slowly. I didn't come here for a version, he said softly. I came here for a person. Leora's lips parted, surprised. Elias continued, people pretend with me all the time. They try to impress me, flatter me, use me. You're the first person who walked in exactly as you are. Mud, chaos, honesty and all. She blinked, stunned. No one had ever described her like that. But you don't know my past, she whispered. Then tell me. She stared at him for a few seconds, deciding whether to trust him. Rain tapped against the windows like a heartbeat. Finally, she breathed out. I used to be engaged, she began. He was charming, funny, good-looking, and I thought he loved me. Her fingers tightened around the mug. Turns out, he only loved what I could give him. Elias felt a knot twist in his chest. What did he want? My savings. My loyalty. My silence. Leora's voice cracked. He left me with nothing. Not even enough to pay rent. I sold half my things just to survive. Elias's jaw clenched. Hard. And after he left, Leora continued, I promised myself I wouldn't get close to anyone again. Especially someone rich. Rich men take, Elias. They don't give. The words stung him, not because she was wrong but because he had once been that man. Cold. Guarded. Untouched by people's real struggles. He leaned back, shaking his head. Leora, that's not all rich men. She smiled, a tired, sad smile. I know. But pain doesn't listen to logic. They sat in silence. Finally, Elias spoke. I want to tell you something too. She looked up, surprised again. My wealth, it never protected me from being lonely. His voice lowered. It only made it easier to hide. He paused, feeling strangely exposed. My mother died when I was 12, he said. And my father raised me like a soldier, not a son. He taught me work, discipline, success, but never how to feel. Leora's expression softened. For years, Elias continued, I convinced myself I didn't need anyone. That people liked me only for my money. So I built walls. High ones. And I stayed behind them. He gazed at her with a quiet vulnerability. You're the first person who walked right through them. Leora's breath trembled. And you didn't even know, Elias added with a small smile. Elias, she whispered, touched. But the warm moment was interrupted when a group of young men from another table snickered loudly and pointed at Leora. Look at her shoes, one mocked. Did she swim here? Another laughed. Leora curled inward, shrinking. She was used to being invisible, but not like this. Not humiliated publicly. Before she could say anything, Elias stood up. Hey. His voice cut through the cafe, like a blade. The room fell silent. Do you see this woman? He said, gesturing to Leora. She fought the rain, the mud, and her own life just to keep her promise and show up tonight. That takes more courage than any of you have shown in your entire lives. The boys swallowed hard. Elias continued, respect does not come from clean clothes or perfect hair. It comes from heart. And she has more of it than any of you ever will. The men lowered their heads, ashamed. Leora stared at Elias, stunned, grateful, overwhelmed. He sat back down slowly. You don't deserve their judgment. Or anyone's. A single tear slid down her cheek. She wiped it quickly, embarrassed. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded gently. You're safe with me. Those words, simple, steady, warm, melted something inside her that had been frozen since the day her fiancé left. She didn't know what this was or what it could become, but for the first time in years she felt seen. The rain began to soften outside, the storm losing its strength. Elias leaned forward. Leora, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you want to leave? He asked softly. Not from me, but from the stairs? Leora looked around, then looked at him. No, she said, voice steady. As long as I'm sitting with you, I'm okay. Elias felt something shift. Something deep. Something new. A waitress approached timidly. Sir, your car is double parked outside. Elias blinked. Car. Oh, Leora whispered. I should have guessed. You probably drive something expensive. He gave a small smirk. Depends on your definition of expensive. The waitress added, your driver is waiting. Leora stared. Driver? Elias quickly waved the waitress away, cheeks slightly pink. Leora chuckled softly. You're really more important than I thought. You make it sound like a bad thing. She shook her head. Not bad. Just intimidating. He leaned closer. Then let me keep doing one thing. What? Proving I'm not the kind of man who hurts you. Leora's chest tightened. Elias. Let me take you home tonight, he said quietly. Safely. Warm. No more muddy fields. She hesitated, but not for long. Okay. She didn't know why she trusted him. Maybe it was the way he looked at her. Maybe it was the way he defended her. Maybe it was the way he didn't flinch at the mud, or her past, or her vulnerability. All she knew was she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. And Elias felt something he hadn't felt in a lifetime. Connection. As they walked out into the cool night, the last drops of rain falling around them like blessings, neither of them knew that this messy, imperfect, mud-stained evening would change their lives forever. Glowing star moral of the story. Kindness sees beyond appearances. True connection begins where judgment ends. Real people don't need perfection to be worthy of love. They need honesty, courage, and a heart willing to stay.